What is going on, everybody? We are back for another edition of the Double Switch podcast. Johnny and I are back this week to talk Phils. Got a big series coming up in Toronto. Going to be missing some players. Cardinals series this past weekend, we ended up splitting two, and Phils are right in the heart of this wild card race. Seems like we're not making up much ground on the two teams in front of us, the Padres and the Braves. We have our work cut out for us there, but I mean the Cardinals and the Phillies. It's going to be a battle the rest of the season, and I would have liked to take three out of four this last weekend, but we ended up splitting, and it's a fresh slate right now, Johnny. I mean we're tied with the Cardinals. Going forward, we just have to win more than they do.
Yeah, it doesn't sound that hard, does it?
Easier said than done, right? I mean we're kind of falling apart here with Bomi dislocating his finger. Going to have half the team up there in Toronto, missing some of the bigger parts of that lineup. So that's going to be tough. But I don't know. Good teams figure it out, and we're going to have to figure it out. I kind of saw some of the old Phillies this weekend. Would have been nice to see us grind out that game with on Saturday.
Yeah, and, the bullpen game.
The bullpen game. I thought that was a very winnable game. And this past series, this past Nola start, kind of feels like the team folded a little bit. And it's something that we haven't seen in a while. Haven't seen since the Girardi days. So are you worried at all that we might be losing a little bit of mojo with the offense and the team right now? Or how are you feeling?
No, I'm not too worried. We were playing kind of with our hair on fire without Harper. It was kind of a little bit shocking that our bullpen and our offense was staying alive like it was these past 2 weeks. I think we came down to earth a little bit. The St. Louis Cardinals, they're a good team. We know that. They have good bats, good arms, all the way through their roster, good players. We're not going to beat them every game, but I believe because we split the series, and now I think we're winning the season series.
Yeah, that's big too. If it comes down to a tiebreaker, we have that against them, and it very well might. So that's huge. Felt like the bullpen was due for some regression, especially Sir Anthony. He can't be perfect all season. Speaking of bullpen pieces, I don't know how much you watch, but I feel like we saw Helsley every single game this series, and man, that guy is nasty. The Cardinals closer.
Yeah, no, he's really good. He throws hard.
They got 102 coming out of the pen with all kinds of movement. Man, I wish we had someone like that. That would be sick. But yeah, I don't know. The biggest concern for me is not much offense. We won against Wainwright. That was all kind of Bomi, and I guess I shouldn't say Bomi on the pod. That was all because of Bohm. Bomi's the nickname I call him. But Bohm, 2 home runs that day. It just feels like one guy is kind of doing the job each game, whereas a couple weeks ago, firing on all cylinders. Right now, it just seems to be like either Schwarber or Reese goes 3 for 4, or even Bohm hits 2 home runs. I don't know if that's just the season dragging on, and this All-Star break's going to help everybody come back a little more refreshed or what, but. Hopefully it doesn't last. Hopefully the lull doesn't last.
Yeah, definitely. That's a little concerning for me too. I thought when Harper went down, we'd kind of get multiple guys to step up, but it's kind of just been one guy taking turns carrying the team every night. Not really a sustainable way to get yourselves into the playoffs, but it's a new series. It's a new day. It could change.
Are you starting to become a little panicked about Nick? Because I think I was expecting him to turn it around by now, and he hasn't. What's the worryometer on Nick Castellanos right now? Is it getting higher, or is it still just not really worried?
For me, obviously it feels like it's more of a down year than reason to panic. But I still think come the end of the year, his numbers will get better slowly. It might not get super hot, but I'm not really super panicked. But if the team starts losing a lot of games, then I think my panic meter goes up a little bit. I think the other guys have been carrying him a little bit, which has helped.
OPS is almost 300 points lower than last year. That's insane.
It just feels like that can't keep going like that. It feels like it has to balance out at some point. What's your worry meter looking like?
It's weird. It's a really different type of worried that I am right now because his whole career he's been at the very worst 800 OPS guy. He's a very good hitter, and good hitters aren't supposed to go into these absurdly like powerless like slumps that he's in. You know, he'll have periods where he goes like 4 for 30, but I mean, it just feels like all season it's been a letdown. Grounding into double plays at a rate that is like leading baseball. Pretty sure he's tied for second in grounding into double plays.
Who's number one? JT Realmuto?
No, JT only has 5. I swear.
Really?
That one week where you were texting me, he must have had all 5 because it felt like every single at bat he was grounding into.
It was miserable week.
Yeah, but Nick's got 11, and the power is nowhere to be found. Full on power outage right now for Nick. So some people have suggested that maybe the same problems that JT's having, some of the Freddie Freemans of the world, because they're not showing much power either. It's just that type of profile that they have. It's not working too well with this ball right now, and maybe that's something we could dive into in a later episode. Try to figure out what's wrong with him because he's gonna really power this lineup once these guys cool off. He needs to power this lineup, I should say.
No, you're absolutely right, and he does have that center field, right center approach to his swing, and not as naturally of a strong guy as like a Schwarber or Harper. So I think he's probably experiencing some of the same stuff Realmuto has been this year with the drop in opposite field power, maybe to do with the balls. Who knows?
Speaking of JT, let's cover it now because it's become quite the news topic. You go first. How you feel about what he said? Less so about what let's not get into the politics of it all. But how do you feel about how he handled it?
Yeah, he could have just kind of played it off how Bohm played it off or how Gibson played it off. I know a lot of people on Twitter were saying the same thing. Just give a generic answer, move on. The little laugh and smirk towards like Jim Salisbury and the reporters, and the whole shot at Canada, unnecessary. Just say less. For a guy that doesn't say much, it's confusing to see him say more.
He would be the last guy I would assume we'd be having this problem with, but I agree completely. He could have just said it's a personal preference, and everybody would have moved on. I don't know why he felt the need to be so defensive about it. And for someone who's his personality, it doesn't always get shown. Not a lot of people really know who JT Realmuto is as like a person. And this, for a lot of people, this is the first time we're really seeing him say anything. I can't tell you a notable interview he's done.
Me neither.
Dude, I couldn't tell you a single thing I've heard him say before. This is kind of like the big thing that's going to stick in everybody's mind because of that. And not a good look, especially for someone who's having such like a disappointing season as is. People are just looking for a reason to not, you know what I mean. Like it's just adding on to the pile of letdowns that JT has provided us with this year. But hey, I mean, I'm sure we'll just all move on from it in a couple of days.
Yeah, end of the day, it's 2 games. The other 3 guys don't really affect us. Bohm can't play either way. Gibson's not starting. Nola just started. So it's really just JT we're missing. And I don't think it'd be too bad to see Garrett Stubbs get some time.
Yeah, for sure. And Veerling's kind of a blessing in disguise for this whole team now, how he can fill in just about anywhere. We lucked out with the Bohm thing, too. I don't know if you saw it, but it looked bad. It looked really awful. Bad. Yeah, it looked like his finger was pointing in some wrong direction. And I assume the worst. It looks like it's going to be a short-term thing, maybe a short IL stint, the minimum 15 days, a couple days after the break. Real quickly, how do you plan on filling in without Bohm? What's your approach to that?
Matt Veerling. Yeah, I think Matt Veerling, maybe Munoz a little bit at third if we want, depending on the matchups. If we're facing a lefty, I think we want to keep Matt Veerling in center field so we can bench Odubel and Mickey Moniak, and then keep the righty Munoz maybe at third base, get as many righties in the lineup as possible.
Definitely. And I believe both Maton and Camargo on rehab assignments now, right?
Yeah, Camargo got delayed a little bit. He said he needed a little more time. He had like a knee strain. So cross your fingers on that one. I'd love to see Camargo back soon.
Okay. And yeah, Stotty can always move over to third. Not his most comfortable position, but Maton's on the roster. I think he should be getting his fair share of at-bats. He earned that in his first stint up here. And obviously, Dubal, he's a pretty good fourth outfielder, so it's not the worst thing that he has to fill in at center, even though he seems to have not hit anything in the past 6 weeks. Is what it is. We got to just kind of figure it out. That's what good teams do.
Yep, absolutely. Thank goodness for Matt Vierling, though.
Yeah, Matt Vierling, he's turning into our little secret weapon. But anyway, let's get into the main point of this episode. Trade deadline's coming up, and it's really, really fun thing in baseball. Baseball makes it really fun. It's not just a free-for-all like some other sports. It's very strategic. Very few superstars usually get moved, only a handful. So it's time the Phils start kind of thinking about that. So we're here today with some trades. We each came up with 3 players that we think the Phils could add. Each is kind of a different level of aggression, depending on what Dombrowski wants to do. And each fills a hole that we think the team has right now. So, we'll leave it at that. Johnny, do you want to start us off with your first trade? Let us know what position it is, why you think we need help there, and who's helping us there.
Yeah, no. My first trade is that the Philadelphia Phillies receive Gregory Soto, left-handed reliever from the Detroit Tigers, and the Tigers receive Johan Rojas, Phillies number 4 prospect, highly touted center fielder, great base runner, great fielder, and Francisco Morales, AAA arm, about MLB ready. Soto's going to have a really high value, though. He's an all-star this year. He's 27 years old. He's only making $700,000, not a free agent until 2026. But the guy is exactly what we need in this bullpen. He's a lefty that throws 98 miles per hour. He's got a great four-seamer, a great sinker, and a great slider. Uses a changeup sparingly. But adding him to this bullpen would solve our bullpen issues for a lot of years, having him and Sir Anthony as a 1-2 punch.
First impression, seems like a lot. It seems like a ton to give up for just a pitcher, but like you said, this is someone who's going to be on this team throughout pretty much the competitive period of this team. These guys are all in their primes now, and 2026, it's kind of going to be the end of this team's run, if this team even has a run in them. Wheeler's free agent, bunch of free agents by then, so Soto would he'd fill in a spot for the next 4 years. He'd give us dependability at a position that we haven't really had it. Would you plug him directly into the closer role like he's been with Detroit, or would you use him as a high leverage reliever in whatever spot you think we need him?
I think using Sir Anthony and him kind of in the role we've been using Brad Hand and Sir Anthony, kind of filling Soto, and I think it could be reverse. It could do either one. They could share the 8th and 9th, really. And if one sticks out from the other, then you can give them the role full time.
It's a very interesting trade. I see why you did it. I'd be okay with it too. Rojas, it's tough now because this team, the way it's built, 2 outfielders for the next 4 or 5 years. We already have 2 of those spots locked up. So Rojas is going to have to beat out every other outfielder in our system. He can definitely do that. But it's a position where we oddly have the flexibility to move someone if we have to, just because we have these long-term deals on the books. But him, Morales, I think Morales can be good too, and I think Detroit would definitely be interested in him. Strikeout stuff, control is always going to be questionable. But if we have all these names in this bullpen, Sir Anthony, Soto, Morales becomes expendable too. So, I like it. Yeah,
the main reason I think it would just be nice to have young, controllable arms too. Because when you look at some of these guys in our bullpen right now, like Familia, Knable, Brad Hand, they're on 1-2 year deals, and we don't really have like a ton of guys waiting in the minors to kind of like take over that role in the bullpen. We have a couple guys we think we could, but it'd be good to have like two surefire young relievers in the bullpen that are under control for another 3 years.
Cool. Yeah, let's move on to my first trade. I think you have the right idea with a high leverage reliever. I'm going a bit of a different route. I'm going to go back to the Tigers, actually, and I'm going to ask them for Michael Fulmer, former starting pitcher, now relief pitcher, and an ineffective one at that. And I'm going to give them back Christian Hernandez, starting pitcher in I think he's in Lakewood right now, and Simon Muzziotti, who we've seen. He's not the highest ceiling player, but he's our 19th ranked prospect. That gives them our 19th prospect and our 24th prospect. Might be a little light. I can see them saying that, but at the end of the day, I mean, Fulmer's also a lot less controllable. Going to lose him after 2023, and his career's kind of had some ups and downs. He hasn't been doing it as long as Soto, even though Soto is very young. And he hasn't been effective at it, so it kind of be like a little lesser of a move than a Soto. I see him filling in a late inning, kind of what we hoped Familia would be. Setup man, can get outs wherever you need him. I'm looking at his stats here: 32 innings, 32 Ks. Walks are a little higher than I'd like, but ERA plus is 203, super good. And the FIP's low. Doesn't give up a lot of hard contact. I think he could work in Citizens Bank Park, and this is something I'd definitely be interested in.
Yeah. My gut reaction to that is I kind of forgot about Michael Fulmer. He was not a great starter with the Tigers by any means, but I did, while I was looking at some trade candidates, I ran into him, and he would be like a very kind of a low-cost option for us, high upside, because it seems like he's kind of finding his groove as a reliever. But I'm a big fan of that, actually, because I personally don't love giving up high level prospects, especially if we're not going to have the player for a while. Giving up a 19th and a 24th prospect kind of sounds perfect.
Yeah. So that's how we're filling out the bullpen. What else you got?
My second trade was for Tyler Mahle. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Is it Mahle?
I think it's Molly. Tyler Mahle.
Yeah, Tyler Mahle. He's a 27-year-old. He's on the Reds. Obviously, everyone's going after Luis Castillo right now. He's the sexy arm. Tyler Mahle. He's on the Mahle. He's on the IL right now, but he's kind of proven himself to be like a horse. He throws a lot of innings every year. He's got a great repertoire, 5-pitch repertoire. Not having a good year right now, which I think would be nice because get a little low value on him. But I have us sending over Griff McGarry and Jalen Ortiz.
Yeah, very interesting arm. He's a high strikeout pitcher. He's got good stuff. It doesn't always translate to a super low ERA, which means that he probably doesn't really know how to use it as well as he probably could. And like you said, he's the second fiddle to Luis Castillo, so he's not going to come as expensive. And I think he's probably a solid 3. I think teams are going to look at him as a 2, but I think he's probably more of a 3 starter on a good staff. Yeah, if the Reds will answer our call, I mean, that's a trade that I could definitely get behind. That's the type of pitcher you want on your staff.
Yeah, I think it would be a nice upgrade at the 3 spot for us. Definitely. And I've heard some rumblings that, not really rumblings, I just saw one article that Caleb Cotham, it's his former pitching coach when Caleb was with the Reds. It's a good connection. He had a good year that year too, so maybe he could bring something back.
Yeah, definitely. Not Muzziotti. Molly's a good name. Another big name that I think that we should probably pursue, pending the injury concerns Frankie Montas, man. I'm a huge Frankie Montas fan. I think that, everything goes right for him. I think he can be a top, 5 starter. I think he's that talented. Swing and miss stuff is awesome. Control is awesome. Everything about him just screams ace. And this would be a big-time trade. Would be very, very expensive trade, but I'm going to try it because, this is the type of trade that swings your chances from fringe contender to best team in your division. I'm going to call him about Frankie Montas, and I'm going to give up Griff McGarry, like you were, Ethan Wilson, Rafael Marchand, and Simon Muzziotti. That's our altogether. That's our 8th, our 6th. I don't see Marchand on here, so I don't know if he fell a lot or if he graduated, which is pretty weird. So that's 6, 8, 19, and Rafael Marchand. I think that's a good package, especially now that it's headlined by a top 100 prospect in Griff McGarry. Let me touch on him real quick because we both have him going somewhere else. I think it's a good time to trade Griff McGarry.
Right.
I think it's a good time to trade him because there's always going to be questions about his control, and it's good enough now where he's facing lower competition. He can just dominate with his stuff. You see it in the strikeout numbers. It's insane how many people he's striking out. He's still walking a ton of people, 4.5 walks per 9. That screams reliever. And I think teams can look at him right now and think maybe I can fix that guy and turn him into a starter. The Phillies should be looking at him right now and saying he's probably a reliever, and we should give him to a team that thinks he's a starter. And I mean, with Painter and Abel at the top of this prospects list, you really don't need all these arms. As funny as it is for me to say that, we've been screaming for, arms in our system for so long. We're actually good now. We actually kind of have the 2 guys who headline our farm system. I'm sure that the A's are probably going to ask about them, which is really, really not what we want to do. So we're really going to peddle them, Griff McGarry, see if they'll bite. Ethan Wilson, I think he profiles as a 4th outfielder, fringe starter. Rafael Marchand is now in a system, with Logan O'Hoppe, so he's second fiddle. I really don't want to give up O'Hoppe either. So I'm gonna move down that list and try to give them a little more quantity instead of quality. But Frankie Montas, I think he'd be the second best pitcher in our staff. I think he's probably better than Aaron Nola. So that's a move that really swings your chances in a 4-game series. If you're facing those 3, it's rough. It's rough for whoever has to deal with that.
Yeah, I gotta say, if one trade that we've talked about is going to come true, I hope it's that one, because it kind of sounds like a king's ransom sending 4 players back. But I mean, 3 of the 4 of them are kind of at like positions that we're pretty deep at. They're not even the top. We don't have to give up our top 2 arms. Don't have to give up our top catcher. We have to give up one of our top outfielders, but he's young and still undeveloped. Who was the 4th player in that trade?
Muzziotti.
Yeah, and Muzziotti, and he's replaceable. I really like that, and I think you're right. I think Griff McGarry, it's kind of great that he's having this good of a season because it kind of shields Mick Abel and Andrew Painter, because we can be like, hey, like Griff McGarry, like he's around that tier of player, and it has some. We can back that up with his numbers this year. Next year, I don't know if we'll have the same numbers. So I think it's the time. The time is now.
Yeah, the time is definitely now if we do this trade. 2 years of control, the end of this year and next year. So it's go time if we get Frankie Montas. We're committing a lot to right now. This year, next year, this has to be a playoff team if we get Frankie Montas. No excuses. But yeah, this is a career 375 pitcher, strikeout per 9, only getting better too. Who knows what the ceiling is? Absolute workhorse. All in on Frankie Montas. Let's just hope that he's healthy. That might be the biggest thing because he's dealing with something. I don't know what's going on there. But
can you trade a player on the IL?
I don't think you can. I don't think you can. Can you?
Because Tyler Mahle is also on the IL. That could cut 2 options out of the equation.
Yeah, I don't know if you can. Say those 2 are on the IL. Are Are you going after Luis Castillo? Or are you even trying?
No, I don't think we want to give up that type of capital. I think they'd start knocking at the door of some of our top 3 prospects, and that's off limits as far as I'm concerned. Not worth it.
I think that the Dodgers are going to get Castillo, but here I looked it up here. Player on an MLB or minor league injured list can be traded even if the player is not eligible to be reinstated and or healthy enough to play. That makes sense because the Dodgers last year traded for Mike Minor and he was on the IL. Okay, so you definitely can.
Okay, that gets that concern out of the way.
Yeah, so let's move on from that. I know you have.
Yes.
Don't you have an announcement to bring us?
Yeah. Actually, we here at the Double Switch podcast, as well as all of Pick Swap Media, are excited to announce our partnership with sportsdisplay.com. Sports Displays are the creators of their unique product of the Jersey Mount, which can be installed to any surface and is significantly cheaper than the hundreds of dollars it usually costs for the type of quality display. Check out the link in the description and make sure to use promo code PICKSWAP at checkout for 10% off and free shipping. Which brings me to my last and final trade, which is a weird one, I got to admit. And I don't even know if I want it to happen because it's risky. I have the Phillies receiving Nathan Eovaldi and kind of a lot, who's attached to a bit of money and injuries for Griff McGarry, Mark Appel, and Corey Knebel to make the money work. My reasoning, the Red Sox biggest need right now is bullpen. They need it now. They're actually their starting rotation is kind of a good one now that Chris Sale's back. Corey Knebel might be able to figure it out somewhere else. He's been better as of late. And then we'd also give them 2 relievers for the future for the upcoming years in Appel and Griff McGarry. But the reason I think that Eovaldi be a good fit on this team is because of his playoff success. We've seen him in the playoffs before. He's got really good numbers. I believe he's 4-1 with around a 3.66 ERA. He brings an intensity to him. He'd be a really good 3-starter behind Nola. And I think his personality really would fit the team. I think he'd be a good veteran pitcher. He'd be the only starter we have that's been in the playoffs.
Wow, that's crazy to think about.
Ain't it?
I guess I guess it makes sense. I forget that none of this team really has playoff experience. And it kind of makes me sad thinking about. But
basically just Schwarber.
Gut reaction. Not a name I was expecting you to say. Not a name that I know is going to be available. Other than that, it's very interesting. Red Sox have Sale coming back, Paxton coming back.
Eovaldi's on the IL and it would be coming back.
Yeah, so they have arms coming. And like you said, there's some salary there that they might be trying to get rid of. And they might be looking at Griff McGarry as, the next Nick Pivetta, that Phillies pitcher they can turn into something more than the Phillies could do with him. So
yeah, I was very hesitant after watching how they turned Nick Pivetta around to make another trade with them, because it seems like they kind of have our number on trades, and I hate getting fleeced and watching our young guys do well somewhere else. It's just probably the most frustrating thing about being a Phillies fan. Those who have been watching for 10 plus years get that. It happens a lot.
You mean the fact that every organization in baseball, minus the Angels, is smarter than us?
Yeah, we're just the National League Angels.
Oh, that's such a terrible thing to be. But yeah, no, I like it. I think it brings a very durable pitcher. I know he's on the IL, but he is very durable. And he's a very, very fun pitcher to watch pitch as we get into the later of the season. We saw Nola and Wheeler kind of like not fold, but take a step back. More so Nola than Wheeler. Wheeler's pretty good. But, yeah, Nola takes a little bit of a step back in September. Nobody knows why. Eovaldi probably wouldn't. He'd give us those durable innings that you need in a playoff push. It's a pitcher not a lot of people would be looking at. And if the Red Sox are willing to talk about it, hopefully that AL wild card kind of makes a little more sense to them then, because if they're really in it, I don't think they'd want to trade him. But if it's fringy, they're a smart enough team to know when to go for it and when not to go for it.
Yeah,
So
that was kind of what I wanted to add. It is his last year of his contract. And Shane Bloom, he's a smart guy. Like, you got to get value where you can find value, and they might not be a playoff team this year. I guess it's too soon to tell. I think at the deadline, it's still going to be very close for them. But it would be interesting if the trade were to happen to see how the money works out, because that would still put us $7 million more over the threshold. So I guess we're all in. Are we really all in?
I think that's a go for it move, especially since he's on an expiring contract. We'd be all in at that point. Kind of feels like what the Dodgers did last year to a lesser extent. They traded for Scherzer, only had a half season of him, and they were gunning for that title. We're gunning for a little less. We're gunning for the playoffs. So I like it. I'd do it. I'd do it if it was all.
Who do you got for your third?
Man, we should have timed this a little better, because this is the most lame trade ever. It's so lame. We should have mixed this in the middle. I'm calling the Cubs. I'm calling the Cubs up, and I'm asking them for a Wade Miley, who most people listening probably forgot existed, mainly because he hasn't pitched this year that much. He's pitched like 12 innings. He's making $10 million, which is way too much. He's still owed about half of that. So I'm going to ask them to give me Wade Miley and some cash. And I'm going to give them back Damon Jones, big lefty in our system. He makes our top 30 list just barely. 27 years old. Cubs can probably just slot him into Wade Miley's spot, and that'll be that. But Wade Miley, for those of you who forgot he existed, he's pitched 12 innings, 12 effective innings. He already has a .6 WAR, 2.84 ERA. He's not the most fun pitcher to watch, but the guy just goes out there and finds ways to get pitchers out or hitters out. And with the health concerns of Eflin specifically, he seems to be a pitcher that we could just plug in and not worry about. He'll give us a competitive start. He's less up and down than Gibson. Gibson's a very up and down pitcher. Kind of knew that when we traded for him. Yeah. Wade Miley's, he's a 4 ERA guy for his career. He's kind of a horse. I mean, I'm looking at these innings, at least 160 every year since. I mean, this year's going to be tough, but since 2012, he'll give you 160 innings, which is pretty cool. And the biggest thing is, I just don't think teams are really even going to think about him, because I forgot about him. I know you forgot about him, and I'm sure that there's just GMs out there who just completely are going to forget about him. So we might be the only team in on Wade Miley at the deadline, but yeah, let's go get him. Let's go get him and see what we can do with him.
All right. Well, initial reaction, I honestly didn't know if he was a reliever or starter these days. I guess he's a starter. That's what it sounds like. But after you explaining it a little bit, it kind of does fit a huge need that we've talked about in the past. Depth in the rotation. When guys go down or miss a start, he could be a guy, probably not keep him in AAA, but like keep him in the bullpen, and he can make spot starts, kind of similar to like Bailey Falter and Christopher Sanchez have been, but maybe a little more dependable than those two and a little more experienced. I like it.
Absolutely.
It doesn't cost us much at all, and it does make us a little bit better incrementally.
Yeah, Damon Jones, I just included a bunch of names that just no one knows, so it's fine. But Damon Jones, 27 years old, looks like he's in AAA. There's not a spot for him. It's a shame. He's looking like a lifelong minor leaguer at this point. I think it's probably time to give him, an opportunity if it's not going to happen here. Send him to the Cubs. Cubs don't have much going on now. They need all the innings they can get, and they're just looking for things that'll work. take a flyer on the 27-year-old, and who knows, right? Who knows? Maybe it'll work for him, and we won't even really notice that he's gone.
Yeah, no, I'd wish him the best if he went somewhere else. But yeah, no, you're right. There's definitely not a spot for him. We have Bailey Falter and Christopher Sanchez, who are also big lefties, and we clearly prefer them over Damon Jones for fair reasons. They've been better.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be a very interesting deadline. A lot of buyers. That's going to be a big thing this year. I think there's going to be a lot of buyers, which positions us relatively poorly unless we're able to give up one of those top prospects, which we don't want to do. So it's going to force Dombrowski to look at those options, no one's thinking of. Think outside the box, and he's a proven GM who he knows how to do this. So I'm not worried. We're probably going to get a lot of clarity too in these next couple weeks. Hopefully not, but I mean injuries happen. There's still a lot of time before the deadline, so that's all I can say is we'll see.
Yeah, no, I think it's pretty cool that I think the third wild card spot's really opening up the trade deadline. I think we see a lot more teams trying to invest in their team and get better and try to reach the playoffs instead of the retooling that we see every year. The retooling and the rebuilding, it gets old. And I think it's better to see baseball going towards wanting to win and a winning direction.
Yeah, agreed. It's definitely a positive for baseball. Real quick before we end this, you think Wheeler and Nola got snubbed?
Wheeler, maybe, but when you look down some of those options, who can you really take out? Except for like Clayton Kershaw.
I think Brandon Drury should have been the Reds pick, and I don't know if Castillo pitched enough because I have him on my fantasy team and he didn't pitch until like middle of May.
Yeah.
So I think Brandon Drury should have been the pick there, and I think that spot should literally just be Wheeler's. Rodon's already in. Rodon just got added. It's him and Wheeler who are the next two spots. I don't know. I think he should be there.
Yeah, Rodon was also a big snub at first. Glad he got a spot too. But it was definitely weird. Just Wheeler's been Cy Young type impressive this year. The only thing holding him back this year was that slow start, which had a lot to do with the lockdown and that type of stuff.
Hopefully he gets in. Injuries happen, but yeah, that's coming up. And Schwarber Home Run Derby. You like his chances?
Ooh, I do, but it's a loaded slate so far, isn't it?
Yeah, it's some serious talent. A lot coming out of the NL too. I don't know if anybody noticed that, but I think all 5 names are in the NL so far. So it's the NL Home Run Derby.
Yeah, last time. Do you remember the year Schwarber and Harper went at it in the finals?
2018.
18. Yeah.
Okay.
That was a cool year. I hope Kyle can bring down Pete Alonso this year. And
oh my god, dude!
anything
for him to lose, dude. Anything for him to lose.
Yeah, that guy's got a punchable.
It's so old.
Yeah, let's get Mets fans all over the world crying. I'd love to see it.
Dude, he just thinks he's like the best at it, so he needs to be humbled at it. And
there's no better man to do it.
Chance. Yeah, Schwarber's got the best chance. Schwarber, Soto's sneaky good at it. But I mean, Pujols, I get it. It's kind of lame, but I get it. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a farewell type of season for him. He deserves to be honored in whatever way. He's one of the best we've ever seen.
Yep, you're right. Any last key points you want to hit before we get out of here?
Which one of your trades do you think is the most likely?
Fulmer.
Michael Fulmer?
Yep. What about you?
I'd say Gregory Soto. I think Dave's got some friends over there in Detroit still, and he likes that connection.
Definitely. It's going to be tough with the starters this year because there's so many teams that need those big – could use a Frankie Montas. Everybody can use a Frankie Montas, and there's just so many more relievers. So I like our odds there.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that would make a lot of sense too.
Anyway, thank you guys for listening to this episode. We'll be back next week, Johnny and I, and then Johnny's going to head out for a bit. We'll get some guests in here for a week or 2 weeks, maybe. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, we'll be back next week. And if you haven't heard, we've partnered up with PickSwap Media Group. They make awesome videos, awesome platform they have here. All things Sixers, Eagles, really everything Philly sports. So throw them the follow on YouTube. Subscribe on YouTube. Throw them the follow on all the socials. And yeah, throw us the follow too. We're getting involved on TikTok. Johnny's figuring out how to do it. He's getting better. Just trying to bring you guys as much content as we can. And thank you guys for listening.
Yep. See you guys. Check out my dancing on TikTok.